Oscar Matthews had always loved Christmas. The way the lights twinkled so friendly from the tree. The way the snow fell so softly, covering the world in a white blanket. The way the house smelled of cinnamon. The presents. Oscar Matthews loved everything there was to love about Christmas. He was the type of person who started preparing in November. He bought his presents, decorated the house, sang carols long before December had even begun. It drove his girlfriend insane, but Oscar merely grinned whenever she complained and kissed her. Oscar Matthews loved Christmas, so when he got to bed on the 24th, he could hardly fall asleep for sheer excitement. He must have fallen asleep eventually, though, for when he woke up, he was met with the queerest sight, a sight so odd he was certain he was still asleep. The thing in front of him could hardly be called human. It glowed with an ethereal light, as if the creature was made of pure energy. It appeared androgynous, neither male or female, but some harmonious balance between. Somehow, Oscar got the feeling that it was looking at him in reproach. Oscar Matthews, it said in a voice that sounded like harp strings and a bass playing in harmony. I am the ghost of Christmas past. The what now? I have come to show you the errors of your ways. Wait, what? What errors? The creature gave off an atmosphere of pity. You truly need our help if you do not even see how wrong you are. But fear not, we will help you. With what? Oscar wanted to ask, but before he'd had a chance to do so, he suddenly felt as if a fishing hook had attached itself to his navel, and the fisherman on the other end was pulling with all his might. Oscar was dragged along with the invisible string, and the messy bedroom around him blurred into an array of colors before he was finally released. What the shenanigan was that? I have taken you with me to the past, so you can remember how you once were. Oscar wanted to say something, ask something, anything really, but his head seemed as empty as the marshmallows he put in his hot chocolate, and so he merely followed the creature in silence. It was snowing. How odd. It was supposed to be the warmest Christmas in half a century. Oscar frowned. What more was that he recognized this place. This was the town he grew up in. A quaint little place he'd loved living in when he was a child. There had, however, not been many opportunities for furthering his education. Then he'd met Elise, and she'd been reason enough not to move back. Oscar followed the creature all the way to his old apartment, where he had to climb the fire escape in order to make his way to the old balcony. The creature gestured towards the window, and Oscar looked inside. It was smaller than he remembered. His parents had always struggled financially, and Oscar's fully paid scholarship had made his mother spend many nights in prayer, thanking God. But despite the smaller size, it was filled with the same old cheer he remembered from his childhood Christmases. His grandmother was quietly singing carols to herself as she was looking after him and his two sisters, while his mother was folding laundry, humming along to grandmother's melody, and his father was baking in the kitchen, filling the entire room with the tempting scent of chocolate and cinnamon. Oscar smiled at the sight. The creature turned towards him. This was what used to be, it told him. Oscar waited politely for the point. And what has become of your Christmases now? Of you? Oscar frowned, confused. Are you upset that I won't be spending my Christmas with my family this year? He asked slowly. It wasn't like he didn't want to spend time with them, but Elise had offered that he spend Christmas with her and her family, and he really wanted to create a good relationship with the people who would hopefully become his in-laws one day. Look at them, the creature told him as it gestured towards the playing children. You adored your sisters, and they worshipped the ground you walked on. And now, how long has it been since you last heard their voices? Oscar thought back. Well, I talked with Sophie last night on the phone, and Jenna and I had dinner last week. You think that's too long? And are you truly happy with... What? The creature cut itself off, suddenly radiating confusion. You're still talking with your sisters? Of course. They're my sisters. I love them, even if Sophie can be exhausting. But... The creature faltered. You weren't supposed to have a good relationship with them. Oscar felt a flare of annoyance. I won't apologize for having a good relationship with my sisters, he said. No, the creature said. I mean, it's good. It's very good. Just unexpected. It seemed to consider its options. What about your relationship with your mother? Well, she has trouble understanding that I'm not a little child anymore, and I wish she'd stop coming over unannounced, but I do like our weekly phone calls. A couple of days ago, she even sent me cookies. What about your father? Bake the cookies. Your grandmother, then? The creature sounded almost desperate. Decorated them. The creature sighed. Then, to be completely honest, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to show you. I was supposed to point out the good relationship you had with people back then and compare it to your loneliness now, but something has clearly gone wrong. It made a frustrated sound. How am I supposed to do my work like this? Sorry, I suppose. The creature gave a shrug. It's not your fault. I'll take you back in a moment. My brother should be right with you. Maybe he can make sense of you. And with these words, Oscar was back in his bedroom, wondering what that had all been about. If nothing else, it had certainly been the most realistic dream he'd ever had. His fingers still felt slightly stiff from the cold, and he tried to blow some warmth into them as he attempted to make sense of the dream. Except that he didn't have time to do so before the next creature was there. Unlike the first, this one was obviously male. Tall and muscular, the creature almost appeared human if one disregarded his manic grin and the insane glow in his eyes that were currently turned towards Oscar. I am the ghost of Christmas present, it told him in a voice that was like huge chunks of rocks falling down a mountainside. I'm Oscar, Oscar introduced himself, mostly because it seemed like the correct thing to do. Look, thundered the ghost of Christmas present. Look at the other side of your bed. Look how empty it is, how cold, how... Oh. He cut himself off as he caught sight of Elise. Who's that? He asked. That's my girlfriend. Oscar couldn't keep the pride out of his voice. Not that he bothered to try. Your girlfriend, the ghost repeated. But you weren't supposed to have a girlfriend. You were supposed to be alone. Unless... His eyes lit up. Perhaps she's only with you for your money. She makes more than I do. Your connections? Don't have any. Is she perhaps in love with your brother? Don't have one. But then I don't understand. The ghost of Christmas present sounded like a kid who didn't understand why his toy had been taken away. You were supposed to be lonely. But perhaps she's the only one you have, he added, hopefully. Family? Parents, 2 sisters and a grandmother. And all my cousins, of course. Friends? A few good ones, and otherwise just acquaintances. Pets? I was considering getting a dog. Well, then what the screw am I supposed to do here? I'm supposed to show you how lonely an existence you have. Well, I apologize for the inconvenience, Oscar said sarcastically. The ghost of Christmas present gave an annoyed snort. How am I supposed to do my job with these kinds of conditions? My sister can deal with you. And with a last snort of annoyance, he disappeared, leaving Oscar alone in the room, if one didn't count the sleeping girl next to him. The next time he was disturbed, Oscar just really wanted to go back to sleep. Or, more accurately, to have another, less seemingly realistic dream. The creature this time was a woman, a beautiful, glowing woman with a flowing dress made out of blue light. Her face seemed merely suggested, as if she were a painting and the artist had been too lazy to do more than a quick sketch. Oscar shuddered at the overwhelming feeling she seemed to radiate, of a mixture between a burning hope and horrifying fear. I am the ghost of Christmas future, she said, in a voice that was a violin simultaneously playing every great composer that had ever lived and would ever live. I'm Oscar, Oscar told her. I am here to show you your future, the spirit told him, and with these words, the bedroom around them disappeared in a swirl of color, and they were standing in a graveyard. Where are we? Oscar asked. Your funeral. Well, not exactly a happy occasion, is it? Just look. Oscar looked. He wasn't quite sure what he was supposed to see. Plenty of people had met up, many of whom he didn't even know. Several were crying, and everywhere around him, Oscar saw faces full of sorrow. Is that Elise? He asked. The woman was far, far older than Elise, but there was something in her face, something in the way she held herself, that reminded Oscar of his girlfriend. He never found out whether or not the spirit had planned to answer, as the woman got up in front of the crowd and started to speak. It was a memorial speech, Oscar realized. For him. They'd gotten married, apparently, and the thought filled him with a feeling of warmth. It was even strange to learn, however, that they'd gotten 2 children on their own and had, furthermore, also adopted 2 foster children. Children who had grown up and had children of their own, who later had children of their own. He was a great-grandfather. It was bizarre. He'd gotten a large family, just like he'd always wanted, and even at his own funeral, Oscar couldn't help the broad grin spreading across his face. Dead or not, he seemed to have had a pretty great life. Finally, he looked up at the spirits. Why are you showing me this? He asked. I mean, it's nice to know everything works out and all, but I'd still wish I had the surprises in life. I don't understand, the spirit said, a composition of confusion. No one was supposed to come to your funeral. Well, that's a bit harsh. No, you don't understand. You were supposed to be lonely, bitter, hate Christmas. Hate Christmas? How could anyone hate Christmas? She looked at him in wonder. You're Oscar Matthews, born 1991, aren't you? No, I was born in 92. A groan met him, somehow still sounding like violins playing. We have the wrong guy, she said, clearly exasperated. I can't believe this. Why didn't the others see this? The night is almost over, and we haven't saved the right guy yet. She sighed. I suppose there's nothing to do except call in the others and work overtime. She sounded frustrated. And I won't even begin to think about all the extra paperwork. Paperwork? Oscar repeated, uncomprehending, but the spirit was already gone, leaving Oscar alone in the middle of his own funeral. Shortly hereafter, the graveyard disappeared as well, and Oscar found himself back in his bedroom with the sound of his girlfriend's soft breathing next to him. He smiled at the sound. What an odd dream, he whispered into her hair before closing his eyes and falling asleep. The next morning, Oscar woke up on the 25th as the exact same man he'd been on the 24th, as the three ghosts of Christmas had had absolutely no influence on his life whatsoever.